This video is going to be how to make cornbread. Now I've got a video on how to make Appalachian cornbread. It's in my on my channel there with all my listed videos if you'd like to find that and watch it. But I had a viewer request. A viewer requested that I make cornbread again because we eat cornbread a lot around here and I don't mind doing that. Now I've been making this cornbread for the last 41 years since I've been married for sure. And then I made it when I was at home some too. So this is the cornbread recipe. If you'd like to screenshot it, it will be in my cookbook. When my cookbook comes out, this will be in it. This is a favorite of ours. We love cornbread. Nothing fancy here. And no sugar. I've left the sugar out and I've marked the sugar out because that's something we would never put in cornbread. We don't even know how it got in here. But I am greased up 2 pans here. I got one cast iron pan. I'm getting ready to put it in the oven and heat it up. And I've got this pan right here that I like to make little individual, like square servings of the cornbread. I make it like this sometimes when we're at home. It's just easier to go grab one of those and put in your beans or whatever meal you're cooking. And of course I've got the ingredients out here on my little counter space that I've got in my kitchen. I don't have a lot of counter space, and if you've been around here a long while, you know that. And so I just do the best I can with what I've got here. And so that's why everything looks a little bunched up, but it's going to be okay. I'll be able to share with you what I'm putting in here and how much. Now, you know, I am doubling this recipe, and I'll do that because we'll be eating for this for a few days. And of course, when you make your cornbread, it's good for about 4 days if it lasts that long. It's so good it may not even last that long because it's delicious. Now, where it calls for 1 cup of cornmeal there, I'll use 2 cups and 2 cups of flour because I'm doubling the recipe. So just remember that when you see me mixing this up, that I am doubling it. Now you can use whatever kind of cornmeal you want to use. I'm using yellow cornmeal because that's what we traditionally used growing up. We used yellow cornmeal, but if you've got white cornmeal and that's what you're used to using, then by all means use whatever kind of cornmeal you use. This is plain cornmeal because we'll be adding all of our ingredients that'll make this cornbread rise individually. And so we're using plain cornmeal in here today. So I'll be adding 2 cups of plain cornmeal. Sorry, I thought I had it all together when I started, but I forgot to get my knife so I can level it out here. 2 cups of cornmeal. And then we're going to need 2 cups of plain flour. Set this stuff out of the way a little bit here. Here's my plain flour. Now I use plain flour most of the time. And I've got my little bay leaves that's in my plain flour that keeps out any undesirable thing that you don't want in there. And it gives your flour just a small, you know, it gives it a little bit of added flavor. I got these new measuring cups right here. And I like them. I got them at Home Goods when I went shopping with my friend. They're the all-clad measuring cups, and I really do like these things. So you add your 2 cups of flour till you cook 2 cups of cornmeal. Okay, we're going to put our salt in. That'll be 2 teaspoons of salt. A teaspoon of baking powder. Well, it'll be 2 teaspoons of baking powder since I'm doubling this. That was baking soda, so it'll be a teaspoon and a half of baking soda. And 2 teaspoons of baking powder. You can tell how much somebody bakes by the size of their baking powder, can't you? I always put it through this little sieve because there's usually always these little clumps, and I never want those in my cornbread. I never want clumps of baking powder or baking soda in anything. It comes out bitter and it's not a good taste. Alright, we got all of these dry ingredients in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix them up really good with a whisk. Once I got those all combined really well, I'm going to go ahead and add my wet ingredients. Well, it calls for 2 eggs, but I'm doubling this recipe, so I'll have 4 eggs. When you got fresh eggs, sometimes you want to crack them in an individual cup. Make sure your eggs are good. So now that I've got my eggs in here, I'm just going to go right ahead and add the buttermilk. I've got 2 cups here, and I'll have to add another cup since I'm doubling the recipe. I hate to keep saying that, but if I don't remind everybody that I'm doubling it, there'll be people saying, well, you put too much of this or too much of that. So I'm doubling everything. I'm doubling the recipe, so it'll be 2 times what it normally would be. Now, if you don't have buttermilk, you can always take your milk and add a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of vinegar to your milk, and that'll collaborate. Give it a little minute to get chunky. You'll see the difference in it, and you can use that. Now, normally I would have cut my lard or my butter right on into my flour, but I went ahead and ordered my added my wet ingredients. So I'm just going to put in my half. It'll be a half a cup. It's normally a quarter of a cup for one batch, but I'll be putting a half a cup in since I'm doubling this batch. Now you can use lard, you can use butter, you can use whatever you normally use to cook your bread in. So this recipe's just always said a quarter of a cup of lard. So whatever you normally cook your bread in, then just feel free to go ahead and do that. Traditionally, we would have used lard. You can use oil. It says you can even interchange it with oil. But I'm going to use lard whenever I have it. Now we're just going to mix all this together. And once we get this mixed good, we'll put it in our pans and bake it. And it's as simple as that. And I like to rub it around there and make sure I got all them dry ingredients on the bottom in. Make sure I got that shortening all combined well. That takes a little minute to work it in, and a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of energy there. But we've got it all mixed up. Now I'm going to get my cast iron pan out of the oven. It's good and hot. By preheating your cast iron in the oven, you get a good crust on your cornbread. Now I'm just going to go ahead and fill these up. We love cornbread around here. I'm just filling these little things up about half, like you would a cupcake or muffins. Jiggle it in there a little bit. And then I'm putting the rest on in here in this cast iron pan. The cast iron pan is traditional. The little square pan I got here is not. It's something that I've added later on just to make the serving sizes easier. Don't have to cut the cornbread. It's already formed into squares. And of course this pone of cornbread that I'm making right here, we'll have to cut it as soon as it's cooled off and ready to serve. So there we go. We got the traditional in the cast iron pan that has been heated up with the grease in it, or the whatever kind of oil you want to use. And right here is the delicious little muffins that I'll make, the little square muffins. I'm going to go ahead and get these in the oven. And I'm going to set the timer for 25 to 30 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and set it on 30 minutes. And then we'll check it around 25 minutes, especially those muffins. They might not take as long. So we'll put it on 30, but I'll check it there at 25. When it goes down to 5, I'll know it's time to check it. Now I'm cooking them in there together. The muffins might cook faster. And we'll just see. I'll keep an eye on them. And when they come out, I'll show you how they look. And there is the recipe one more time. If you need to screenshot it, feel free to do that. We traditionally used yellow cornmeal. You can use whatever kind of cornmeal you want to use. Now it does say heat the oven 425 degrees, but I've noticed with my oven I have to cook it at 375 degrees. Well, it's the time's on there now, but I have to cook it at 375 to get it hot enough to cook my cornbread the way it should. Now here's the little muffins. And the other one's not quite done enough. I think I'll leave it in there just a few more minutes. I may even put this in for a few more minutes. To me, I've got one over here that's pretty brown, and I want the other ones, I'd like for the other ones to get just a little bit browner on top. So I think I'm going to leave them in here for about 3 more minutes. And it smells good. Good and buttery. Well, I have left it on for quite a bit. In here for a little bit longer, so it'll get a little bit browner. But I don't want to leave it in there too long. I don't want it to burn. So I'm going to go ahead and get it out. There we go. There we got the cornbread. The cornbread will be ready. Well, here is the beautiful golden cornbread. Ready to be served with whatever you like to serve it with.